This podcast may contain explicit language. Shut up! Shut up, shut up! The Princess Diaries is next. Welcome to the Greatest Movie of All Time podcast, the show that uses a unique grading style to redefine what the greatest movies are. I'm Tom Duncan.
And I'm Dana Duncan.
Tonight, for our 322nd episode, we discuss The Princess Diaries, celebrating its 25th anniversary. Directed by Gary Marshall, written by Gina Wendkos, music by John Debney, edited by Bruce Green, starring Julie Andrews as Clarisse Renaldi, Anne Hathaway as Mia Thermopolis, Hector Elizondo as Joe, Heather Matarazzo as Lily Moskowitz, Mandy Moore as Lana Thomas, Caroline Goodall as Helen Thermopolis, Robert Schwartzman as Michael Moskowitz, Eric Von Detten as Josh Bryant, Sean O'Brien as Patrick O'Connell, Sandra Oh as Geraldine Gupta, Kathleen Marshall as Charlotte Cutaway, Patrick Pfluger as Jeremiah Hart, and Mindy Burbano as Anita Harbula, Mia's gym teacher. Background for the movie: The Princess Diaries was released on July 29th, 2001. On a budget of $26 million, the film would go on to gross $165.3 million to finish number 27 at the worldwide box office for the year 2001. The Princess Diaries received mostly mixed reviews, with the few positive accolades being the performances by both Hathaway and Julie Andrews. Nevertheless, a sequel was released in 2004, and a planned third movie is in development, with Hathaway set to return. Elite Daily contributor Alana Altman described the film as a bona fide fave of 90s and 2000s kids alike. Writing for the same publication, Kristen Perrone called the film an essential part of the childhoods of anyone who grew up in the early 2000s. Julie Andrews attributes the film's longevity to new generations rediscovering it approximately every 7 years. The actress believes the film continues to resonate with audiences due to its strong morals about responsibility, obligation, decency, growing up, and self-discovery. 17 magazine ranked The Princess Diaries the 10th best teen movies you can't grow up without watching. Currently holds a 49% among critics on Rotten Tomatoes, a 52 score on Metacritic, and a 3.7 out of 5 on Letterboxd. But of course, we can't do this alone, so we welcome in our returning celebrity guests for the evening. We have 80% of the Duncan clan here tonight. So first up, we welcome our most frequent guest, making her record 21st appearance on the show to date, my mother, the Golden Age Gourmet. Please welcome back Christine Duncan.
Thanks, everyone. Glad to be back.
Welcome back, welcome back. You will be with us for the next 3 weeks.
Yes, I will. I'm looking forward to it.
So strap in, everybody. We're going to have some consternation at hand. That being said, we also welcome in our returning other celebrity guest, making her 13th appearance on the show to date. It is the pint-sized professor of past antiquities only she cares about. Please welcome back Sarah Duncan.
Thank you all. Glad to be back.
Do the hustle.
Why is Mom doing the hustle?
Just because I was filling time. You know.
I didn't even know you knew how to do the hustle.
Oh, yeah. So, I'm a child of the
She
70s.
does. She's a middle-aged white woman.
Well, yeah, that's... and a child of the 70s. So welcome back, both of you. This is a film that I recall seeing in theaters, at least with both of my sisters. Mom seems to maintain, even though, let's face it, Mom's memory of when she watched films, how she watched films the first time is usually not particularly good. And she comes by it honestly, because her mother has the exact same problem.
But listen.
You maintain that you saw it with us.
Yes, because the three of you would not have been at the theater without me. First of all, you had A, no money, and B, no transportation. So
let me just say, when I was 11, I went to a lot of movies without people. Like, you'd drop me off and then we'd go. Now, this is likely that this is the middle of summer and we went for some reason, probably because my sister saw this all over Disney Channel, which was the hottest thing every day. What was on Disney that day? But I don't know whether you saw it with us or not. I just remember seeing it in the theater and seeing it with my sisters. That's my relationship.
I know I saw it with the girls. I don't remember you being there, so who knows?
More likely than not, the movie theater in the summers back then actually had matinees for the children in the summer. So if you were home that day, it's probable that you took the kids and I was working.
It could also be that you were working on a Saturday and we went without you.
I didn't work a lot of Saturdays at that time, at least at the office.
Okay. I guess I don't recall that much, but, that's 25 years ago. It's a long time.
Indeed.
Sarah, what do you recall about the film? Watching it apparently with Mom and I, even though I don't remember Mom there and Mom doesn't remember me there. So one of us was there, at least.
I remember my sister. That's all about it. I was 5.
So you can't even corroborate that either of us was there.
No, I can't. I remember watching this with my sister, and I remember we used to repeat this movie a lot when we were younger.
So anybody who thinks that witnesses' memory on the stand is beyond impeachment, just listen to the last 5 minutes of this episode. Anyway, moving on. Dad, do you remember the first time you may or may not have seen this movie?
In full?
Yes, that's usually implied.
I finished it last night.
I see. Okay.
I have never seen it in full. I'm pretty sure I've seen bits and pieces. More likely than not, it was one of those situations where the girls were watching it, and I came through the room and sat down for a bit and watched something with them. Because I remember bits and pieces, but I had never seen the whole thing through.
So I would say now, turning our attention specifically to the themes of the movie, that this is the third in a 4-week stretch at least where we've been discussing coming-of-age movies for women. Spirited Away was last week. We did Legally Blonde the week before. We have Alice in Wonderland next week. All 4 of them seem to cover a very similar pattern, and they all seemingly, oddly, had anniversaries right next to each other, even though it's, different decades and such. But why is this a big universal theme that we seemingly keep coming back to, keep mining, keep finding importance in? I'll turn to our female audience first, or our female guests.
Okay. So I think for a long time that women's identities were tied to roles like daughter, wife, mother. And I think that film is exploring how women are more than that. And I think women want to be seen as more than that. And so these stories are navigating some of the social expectations, gender roles, unequal opportunities between men and women, and they are exploring what women can be. And I think that it also reflects some audience. These young girls want to be something more, and this allows you to dream. And little girls have these dreams, and then they get shoved in a box with reality. And so it's also kind of nice to see somebody actually realize that dream.
To build on that just a little bit, I think this is a genre that kind of explores the idea of it's okay to be yourself. And I think this movie in particular it's really okay to be yourself, no matter how quirky or weird. And to quote a line from the movie, no one can make you feel inferior. So it's something that women come back to in order to kind of bring us to this idea that we're not too much, which is something that we're often told.
My thought is that men had the first 20 centuries, so we're giving the 21st to women. Suddenly, I think movie producers and movie executives figured out that women are a market too, and so they decided to actually make films that women wanted to go and see instead of just as tag-alongs. Because they figured out, realistically, wherever you can get women to go, men will follow.
True story.
That might have been true in 2001, and ironically, 3 out of the 4 films that I mentioned that we're covering, so this is the third consecutive film from 2001, Legally Blonde, Spirited Away, and now this film. I guess that's a little bit curious that these all came out seemingly at the same time, in the same summer, aimed at roughly the same audience.
I think coming of age movies have always been seen as something that's enjoyable. I think you like to see somebody achieve something or somebody grow. I mean, even if you think about Jane Eyre or Little Women, right? Those are all coming of age stories as well that have also been made into all kinds of movies. So between books and the movies, it's a traditional theme and it never grows tiresome.
I think, though, one thing that we're also missing is thinking back on the area that this would have started to be produced would have been early 2000s, late 99 even possibly. And thinking about the books, that was the girl power era. That was really the, peak of the 90s of saying women can do anything. And these movies are, I feel like, a drumbeat to that. One was Legally Blonde, in which you're saying that, this woman who was constantly doubted is capable of anything. And this one is more about this woman who's quirky and odd and just a little bit goofy, really coming into herself and saying that I'm okay with who I am, and that's still something that's important.
So 3 out of the 4 of us were on a very similar episode for a Gary Marshall directed film in Pretty Woman, at which time one particular person, who shall remain nameless, took a very long time to, let's say, pontificate on the princess story that is Pretty Woman. This is much more explicitly a princess story, but why do we keep returning to that aspect of it? Is it simply that this is mythology for women, that the princess story seemingly is the fantasy, or is it something more?
I think that these are not just that coming of age, but both Mia and Vivian start out maybe being overlooked or underestimated, and somebody recognizes their potential. They want to belong. They want to have something. They want to change themselves into something that people can respect. They want to be valued. And I think that in this whole, it's not just this whole princess thing, but it's just to be someone, to be felt like somebody recognizes them.
Appreciates them for their talent.
Right. And who they are, and whether they are weird or not weird or too much, as Sarah said before, just to have belonging.
The distinction that I would make is that in Pretty Woman, it's not really about Julia Roberts. It's about Richard Gere. It's about his greed and his inability to have any empathy and whatever. And it was her who pulled him into a change in his life. That's the difference. This film is about the women in the film predominantly, and that's the distinction. Yes, Julia Roberts evolves and she becomes more than what she thought and whatever, but ultimately it's a story about, it's not Julia Roberts who climbs the fire escape, it's Richard Gere, because he's trying to win her back because he has come to terms with how much of an ass he had been throughout his life and now wants to change. So that's the distinction. These films are all about the same thing, which is we're going to make them the center instead of being a peripheral character.
You spent the first half of that response drawing a distinction, then said they're all about the same thing. Those two ideas don't work.
No. The three films from this time frame.
I see. Okay. That makes a lot more sense. I couldn't follow your train of thought there.
Pretty Woman is a different type of film because of the background and nature of it and who's the central character. These all three of the films from 2001 have women as the central character, and actually the men look horrible most of the time or look buffoonish with good reason. And that's the distinction.
In a true literary sense, yes, Richard Gere is the protagonist of Pretty Woman because he's the one that goes through the major catharsis of the film. Mia in this one is the primary character who changes or modifies. Yet, I would still draw a seemingly significant amount of overlap. There are similar actors from both films. There's a similar director. There's a similar tone. There seems to be a lot of scenes. There's the makeover scene. There's the formal dinner scene where something goes wrong. There's a lot of overlap between the two films. And I think that, to a degree, part of my reason of asking this is that Pretty Woman is discussing a lot of adult themes, but it was still a fairy tale that appealed to adult women. And this is taking a similar type of story with a lot of overlapping stuff that they knew would already work and gearing it more towards middle school girls, maybe early high school girls, that they could have this fantasy too, but not quite with all of the adult themes of prostitution and drugs and everything else that comes with Pretty Woman.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think too that this story also, just like Sarah was saying, appeals to girls who seem to be a little bit awkward and help them to find their identity and make them be okay with who they are. You know, that you can be awkward and still be adored and still come out into adulthood as a real adult, you know, as not somebody who's always awkward or seen as awkward or remains unseen. Sarah and I were just talking because John and she had just watched Shall We Dance? And we were talking,
Which version?
The Richard
Gere version.
Okay, so the American remake. Okay.
Yes. And we were talking about my favorite line in that, about how she's sitting at the bar with the private investigator, and she was talking about her spouse and about having somebody see your life, that the spouse was somebody who was there as a witness to your life. And I think that that same theme comes in here. It's, when I was doing some research, it was saying, you know, the makeover scene is actually misunderstood. It says it's less about beauty than about the transformation. That stories across culture, what does it say? Your stories across cultures use external changes like a new wardrobe, a new name, a magical gift to symbolize internal growth. So as they're changing, as their opinions are changing, as she's growing, as she's thinking more like the princess that her grandmother wants her to be, that's that whole transformation that takes place with that makeover. She's suddenly thinking differently and having to face adult reality.
And I think one thing that most men typically miss, too, with a women's quote-unquote makeover scene is that most women will understand you walk out with the confidence. It's not about changing the way you look. It's about changing something about the way you feel a bit, too.
That's an interesting point. I guess I hadn't necessarily considered it that way.
But yet and I don't know whether it's cultural or if it's genetic or whatever, but women have makeovers. Men do not have makeovers. Men are lucky if they change t-shirts.
No. T-shirts I'm not worried about nearly as much as the underwear and the socks. If the socks can stand up on their own.
I lived in the dorms. I had a roommate. And the number of times I've seen guys walk around the room and pick up shirts and sniff them to decide whether or not they could put it on before a date. Ugh.
Why do you think they invented Axe body spray?
Well, and the thing about this is when I was doing the research and it was talking about the difference between women's stories and men's stories. And you're right, there is no makeover scene in a man's story. But they were saying that in a man's story, they're mastering a skill, they're gaining status, they're completing some sort of an accomplishment, a goal, winning a race or whatever it is.
Well, so making an example of what you're discussing here, since it's of the moment due to the trailer just recently coming out, the training montage where Rocky ends up at the top of the Philadelphia Art Museum steps is the male version of the makeover scene?
Yes.
The makeover for men is they somehow or another go from being a poor drudge on society to becoming the wealthy person driving the cool sports car and whatever. Yeah.
I'm sorry. That literally has never happened in any movie ever. It never goes that quickly. The Rocky montage is he's training, he's having trouble, then he slowly starts to increase his push-ups, then he's running, and so it's increasing incrementally, but the point at which he starts is not that far from the point at which he ends up. You don't go from being the loser in the beginning of the montage to being the guy who's driving the Porsche at the end of the montage. That may be from where you come at the beginning of the movie to the end of the movie, but not at the montage scene. That's too quick.
No, but the montage for both men and women, and what I said before, has to do with confidence and feeling like you are somebody to be admired. If you make it through whatever skill you're building, whatever thing that you're working towards, for men, that shows their level of confidence. They have reached this thing that they've been working towards. And for some women, feeling better about themselves in whatever way that is, and specifically sometimes about the way you look, because people do incredibly judge us for the way we look, that has a lot to do with confidence in whatever area that these are about.
To be fair, while men are shallow and do think about women and the way they look for the attraction level and dating and other things, nobody is harder on women's looks than other women themselves. I will stand...
I never said that they weren't.
You guys are ruthless to each other. I don't get it. I don't want any part of it. I will stand back. But, my God, I don't get that one. But
Not
I will
all
say,
women.
if in the makeover scene here they had played Gonna Fly Now, I would have been much more interested. But, Dad, do you have a plot summary ready for us?
I do have a plot summary. Princess Diaries, starring Anne Hathaway, Julie Andrews, and Hector Elizondo, follows Mia Thermopolis, an awkward San Francisco teenager who discovers she is heir to the throne of the fictional kingdom of Genovia. Her formal grandmother, Queen Clarisse Renaldi, arrives to mold Mia into a proper princess, testing the girl's confidence and sense of identity. balancing royal expectations with ordinary teenage struggles, friendship, first crushes, and self-doubt. Mia gradually learns that true leadership stems from authenticity rather than appearance.
Thank you. So what is the film about?
I think we've just spent several minutes discussing that.
Transformation. It's about coming of age. It's about acceptance and accepting of responsibility that you're born into.
I put down, woman gets unknowingly thrust into a position of maturity and leadership and has to learn to meet the moment.
Well said.
Sometimes, occasionally, I have a gift for writing. Just maybe.
Well,
did you know? The scene where Mia slips and falls in the bleachers was real. Anne Hathaway had slipped on a puddle while doing the scene, and director Gary Marshall thought it was so funny, he inserted it in the final cut. You can audibly laugh. It's okay. Did you know? The picture of Mia's deceased father next to her music box is Anne Hathaway's real-life father, Gerald T. Hathaway. He also appears to be the one writing the letter to her while fishing.
Wow.
Also, I didn't put it in this set, but one of the 4 cats used in the movie as Fat Louie was actually her real cat.
Hey.
Did you know? When Mia accidentally sets the man's arm on fire, the flames were supposed to go out when he puts his arm in the ice bucket, but they didn't. Anne Hathaway actually panicked and threw the glass of water on it, which was not scripted. Did you know? Gary Marshall wrote the retainer scene after learning Anne Hathaway had worn a retainer when she was younger, but found it difficult to speak while wearing it. Hathaway brought in her old retainer for the scene. How many things does she bring in or borrow from her own real life to project onto this movie?
Yeah, wow. Especially for her first big movie.
Did you know? Anne Hathaway had to wear a thick clip-in hairpiece to give her hair a much bushier appearance. The hairpiece became known as the Beast by cast and crew. Her pre-makeover eyebrows took an hour to apply as each tiny hair was individually glued on.
Oh my gosh.
Oh, wow.
Oh.
I don't know if anybody deserves those eyebrows. Wow.
No.
And finally, did you know? One of the waiters in the dinner scene when Mia breaks the water glass says, "It happens all the time." The same actor played a waiter in Pretty Woman and said the same line when Vivian Ward, Julia Roberts, flings the snail and the waiter catches it. So there's some Gary Marshall influence for you there.
I guess so.
And with that, we will take our first break, and we'll be right back. Before we jump back into the episode, next week for our 323rd episode, we discuss Alice in Wonderland from 1951, celebrating its 65th anniversary. Directed by Clyde Geronimi, Wilfred Jackson, and Hamilton Lusk. Written by 13 different credited writers. Music by Oliver Wallace, editing by Lloyd L. Richardson. You won't want to miss that one, so watch ahead of the show by searching the Real Good app to find where it's streaming for you. That's REELGOOD. All right, before we get too much further, let's turn to our guests. Let's start with Sarah. What are you working on, and where can people find you?
I am currently working on a paper I'm hoping to publish with the Food Network, actually, on the history of soul food.
So you're cooking shoes?
No. Actually, my theory is that French cooking kind of was introduced into soul food and soul cuisine in multiple ways. Obviously down in Louisiana. But also there were some prominent chefs that including Thomas Jefferson's own cook, who worked in his kitchen, who was actually a slave. It was Sally Hemings's brother, who worked in France and was trained in French kitchens. And so I am doing a deep dive into understanding food culture and understanding French influence on slave food.
Okay. Something we didn't know. Good luck with that. Mom, what are you working on, and where can people find you?
People can usually find me at home or at work, and I am working on trying to perfect some bread making, and I'm starting.
How do you perfect bread making?
Practice. And I made a new sourdough, and so I am
bread goo,
new bread goo. An Italian sourdough mix that I haven't tried yet, and I wanted to that I wanted to explore. So I just finished now. I can actually use the sourdough, and so we'll be working on that. And then while I was in Switzerland, my friend made a really good Swiss bread type that I really liked the crumb on, and I wanted to try that. So I'll be making some new breads, and so that's what I'm looking forward to.
Well, good luck with perfecting bread, because apparently no one's done that in thousands of years since the Egyptians started making bread.
My bread. I just have gotten to the point
you're just perfecting your own bread. So then you have a standard by which you can measure whether it's perfect?
Well, now that she has the Italian sourdough, she can get into all of the pastries that are made with Italian sourdough.
Again, do you have a measuring stick for perfection on bread?
I hope she does, so she can beat you with it.
He needs a good beating.
Why wouldn't you just use a rolling pin?
Mine's pretty heavy. I have a marble one.
We don't need to crack your head open again.
She's already trying to kill off members of the family. Why not me? I mean...
Members? As in plural?
No, it's just one.
Who?
You.
Me.
Why would I do that?
I don't know. You've been attempting for years.
Multiple times.
Although I didn't read about a new ancient poison that they could never trace.
Yeah, it's always great.
I almost sent the article to Sarah, or did I send it to you?
You did
This
send
is the most disconcerting development in America these days, is how much women particularly love true crime.
Yes.
I don't know what it is.
When I worked as an archaeologist, we used to have a saying that archaeologists always know the best places to hide the body.
Yes.
And anthropologists always know how to get rid of it. So between the two.
Or the forensic scientist knows how to not make it show. But I am
moving on.
This is why you should be more afraid of us, Thomas. This is why you should be more afraid of us.
I'm not at all afraid of either of you. I'm sorry. There is literally... You could chop me up this weekend. I still wouldn't be afraid of you.
All right, let's go.
As I've said many times, I feel like I've lived, for the most part, the best version of what I was going to achieve. And so if it's cut short, that's not really on me. I did with it what I could.
Moving on.
Oh, now we're moving on. I already tried to move us once, and we just kept going, but okay.
That's because no one listens to you.
Apparently some people do. Otherwise, we would be doing this for dead air.
They listen for Dad.
Well, that's probably true. People...
Your friends do seem to like me better.
Yeah. You get to be the quirky old guy. It's like the old guy who toots and everybody just smiles because it's cute. and I have to be the heavy all the time, keeping us directioned and, steering the ship in the right way. Yeah, you get to just be the fun uncle, and I got to be the heavy.
Keep telling yourself that.
It's 100% true, but regardless, we will move on. Best performance is next, and that is where we left off. Dad, who did you have down?
I know this is going to be controversial, but I have Gary Marshall. I think that this film, in somebody else's hands, does not come off as being funny or entertaining. I think Gary Marshall had one hand tied behind his back because it's a G-rated film. You saw what he could do when he had more adult themes with Pretty Woman, but he couldn't do half the stuff. So what he ended up doing is reverting back to his days writing Happy Days and The Dick Van Dyke Show and Laverne and Shirley to come up with some things that made it entertaining. But by the same token, they tended to be a little schlocky, predictable, but it's a G film, and you can't have it both ways.
I don't see where that's exactly controversial, since we nominate the director for this category literally every week. But
it's because if you read all of the reviews, they loved Hathaway, they loved Andrews, they thought Marshall did a crappy job, and most of them said it was schlocky. That's the bad reviews.
Well,
it's a little campy.
Yeah. There is a little bit of this where it ebbs and flows. Like, the beach scene is so awkward, and it feels then like the part after that is like from a different movie at times for me. But that's fine.
The beach scene is supposed to be awkward. Having read both the books and seen the film, this movie is supposed to take place when she is 15. She does not look 15 in the movie, which is a little bit hard in your brain to kind of put forth. Were you normal and unawkward with the opposite gender when you were 15? Because I would like to try for you to tell me you were normal with them. And show your work.
You completely missed the commentary. My point is not that the beach scene didn't work.
It's all supposed to be awkward.
That's the point, No. The beach scene is fine. That was not my comment. It's that immediately following it, the entire piece after that feels like it's a completely different movie.
How?
That scene is supposed to be this paparazzi nature thing, and they've been swarming her and whatever else, and then she gets, I don't know, torn down and belittled seemingly for stuff that wasn't really her fault, and then she has to apologize to the best friend who was just purely using her too. So I don't quite understand that, and and the tone shifts after that scene where it's been kind of happy-go-lucky and she's living in this weird fantasy, and then everything seemingly crashes, and we just take this dour, like, seeming trough of a dip for me after that moment, and it never really catches the momentum up again through the rest of the film.
But that's because you're supposed to. The point of that part of the film is that she suddenly realizes that it's not all fun and games. It's not all of these things that she's been looking at it as on the bright side of all of this. She has to deal with the bad as well as the good, and she let a lot of people down and put a bad taste in some people's mouths, and now she's got a decision to make on whether or not she actually wants to accept this as her future or not. And that's kind of the pivotal point. So it does do exactly what you're saying to, but it's supposed to. And the book reads like that too.
Okay.
It's kind of this letdown of crash of going, oh shit, this isn't, all fun and games. This is the rest of my life, and I could be putting up with this being harassed and goaded into situations forever. I let all these people down.
It's a turning point. That's the whole
certainly.
point, is that it made her realize that she overbooked herself having 3 different things that she was supposed to do on Saturday night. And she didn't think about it because what she really wanted was this date. And she didn't think about the fact that she was going to really be letting all these other people down, or that they would even care. Then it's her trying to make up for that, trying to figure out how she was going to justify, or not justify, maybe that's the wrong word for it, but how she was going to make up to those people that she actually cared about, the letdown that they had, and then how was she going to deal with this responsibility?
I think you guys are projecting stuff that is
No.
there in the movie, but was never explicitly made into the film, and a part of that. And 2, my biggest criticism, again, is the tone. It has this tonal shift that lands so awkwardly after that sequence, where it feels like the movie just completely changes its feeling of exactly where we're going. And I don't know. It lands on a dour moment. Anyway, would one of you please provide your best performance?
Anne Hathaway. I think it's hard to do a film like this without feeling, contrived and, I don't know, overly childish without her. Because I feel like adults can still watch this without it feeling like it's beating you over the head with the message that it's trying to get across. She's charming, she's fun, she's quirky, she kind of embodies the idea of this, and it has to do with her acting. Because it's very difficult to see her as this character, even in some of the other films she's done. She's just wonderful at this. And she brings so much life and joy to the film in so many little moments.
I would tend to agree, but I have her as most charismatic, not best performance. Ultimately, the person to me that I gave best performance is the one who steals every single scene he's in, and that's Hector Elizondo as Joe. Every single friggin' scene, he is the best and the most confident and the most apparent in every single friggin' scene. He was awesome. Not to say anything against Julie Andrews or Anne Hathaway, because Anne Hathaway is my most charismatic, and I'll tip my hand a little bit here. I had Julie Andrews as my secondary, but he stole every moment with those two, and it's hard when we have 2 different Oscar winners on the screen and you're basically acting them off the screen.
I also had Hector. I just think that he has that gentle way of putting people in their place in this movie, and of inserting his own opinions without being in your face, and a polite convincing to Julie Andrews. I just think, and I have him as my most charismatic too, just because of his whole personality. He just walks on and lights up the screen, and you know that something good is coming when he shows up. So I have him as the best performance.
Now, the one person that we haven't really discussed in all of this that I thought somebody would have given best performance to, because frankly, just by her sheer appearance, you would think that was possible. But Dame Julie Andrews here, giving a certain level of gravitas and grace to the film that kind of legitimized it. I don't know if anybody really goes to this movie unless she's the headliner, or at least it gets that kind of level of attention, because this was Anne Hathaway's first movie, and nobody's going because Hector Elizondo's on the poster.
I have her as my best secondary performance.
Me too.
I just think she's another one who just comes in and she's so full of character, and everybody has respect for her. And then Hector shows her such respect. I think there's a respect between the actors, and you can see it play out, as well as they're acting the part. You know, in the second one, don't they get married, Sarah?
Yes.
I think she marries him. Yeah. And so you can see that they're playing that up.
No,
the
she does
relationship
not.
between the two of them. I thought she did.
You're talking about Joe and the Queen, right?
Yes.
Yes, they do.
I don't know if they got
okay.
married.
I thought you were talking about Anne, and I'm like,
No.
yes, they did get married.
No, but my point is that Julie Andrews just comes on and she just knows what she's doing, and it's not like she's acting. This is like her everyday life, and she just plays the part without thinking about it, and he comes in and just lights things up. The chemistry between the two of them I found is charming.
I think that she has to accomplish a lot of different emotional ranges. I know it's expected in Hathaway's character as the primary protagonist that she has to go through embarrassment and vulnerability and all the things you would associate with coming of age. But Julie Andrews has to exercise anger, comedy, humility, vulnerability. There's a whole range of things. Whereas Hector Elizondo does one thing really, really well. He is the disappointed dad throughout the entire movie, seemingly.
He's the conscience of the film.
Sure. Okay, that's a good way of putting it. But she also has to go through her own level of learning and adapting and remembering what it was to be a young girl with this thrust upon you. And so I think that's the inverted take is while she's not the primary protagonist, she does have to go through her own learning moments about how to bring this young woman along. Sarah, you also had Julie Andrews?
I had Julie Andrews as my secondary, and I don't think that Anne Hathaway works as Mia without Julie Andrews as kind of the refined opposite. So it's the whole measured temperance, understated leadership quality, whereas Mia is really supposed to be showing a very raw individual. And I don't think the film works with Anne Hathaway as she is in the beginning of the film without Julie Andrews in opposition to that.
So 3 of us had Julie Andrews as our secondary. Did you also have her as secondary, or did you go elsewhere?
Yes, I did. While I really have always loved Hector Elizondo, from the days when he was on a sitcom back, in the late 70s, and I saw him, he was one of my favorite actors at that time because I thought he was so good. Nevertheless, I had to do it this way. So, yes, Julie Andrews is secondary because it's frickin' Julie Andrews. She at least has to be second because she just has the gravitas. And as most charismatic, you could tell that Anne Hathaway had what it took to become a star. And that's the definition of charismatic.
I think the number one thing that really translates well and why she's probably the most charismatic in the film for me, she has that movie star quality smile that, especially in somebody younger that's supposed to lead the film, you really need to have in some vehicle like this, where she's got to have that charmed smile. Not charming. When she is charmed by somebody and she responds with that just toothy grin, you have to feel that warmth, that heartfeltness that she's clearly feeling in that moment, and it's conveyed through that small gesture. Did anybody else have any other charismatic people here?
No, I already mentioned that I had Hector Elizondo.
I did it as well. I had Hector. And a big part of that is just he injects a little bit of life into moments where, you know, they're really deep, sentimental. He knows how to put people at ease. He knows how to put people on edge. It kind of whatever is needed in that very specific moment. And just, he makes it hard to look away.
Moving to best scene, I have 5 nominees here. I have the first day at the consulate. I have the first formal dinner. I have the beach party. I have standing up to Lana. And I have the press conference. Those seem to be probably the 5 biggest moments in the film, at least from what I could tell. But were there any other smaller scenes that anybody would like to nominate?
The trolley accident.
Yeah, I have Clarisse knighting the police officer and the transportation or the trolley driver to the Order of the Rose. I also have where Clarisse is giving Mia her jewelry box, her prized jewelry box with the jewelry inside it, and she drops the box and then she shoves it in her backpack and is shaking it to the horror of the queen. You have something else? I have a few more written down.
I don't.
Dana?
No, I do not.
Oh. I have Mia hitting the softball into Josh's nether regions at the softball game just to kind of, prove him up. I think one of the funniest things was when Clarisse was giving her princess lessons and they were walking through you could see them through the doorway, and she said, "We don't schlump like this," and she's bent over walking.
Okay, so we have first day at the consulate, jewelry box, princess lessons, first formal dinner, Order of the Rose, beach party, standing up to Lana, last softball game, and press conference. Going once, going twice. Those are the nominees. Out of these, what is the best scene?
First day at the consulate. You were commenting about the measuring stick for mom's bread. Well, this is the measuring stick for her, because you see how far she has to go in order to become the princess. Because she's just this bumbling child trying to figure out where everything goes and stuff. And it just shows you where she starts from and ultimately where she has to end up.
That's an interesting point. I certainly hadn't thought about it in that way, but I think I agree with you. I don't know if it's my best scene. I still think the formal dinner, for whatever reason, sticks in the back of my mind. It's the part about this film and the pomp and the circumstance that I just don't get. I understand that there are certain expectations attached to royalty, but if you supposedly do whatever it is that you want and you have few guardrails, I know it's technically a governmental position and you're the head of state, but there are so many of these just weird rules about how to behave, what to do, what you're eating, who you have to talk to, how you have to do, etc., that make zero sense to me. Like, who came up with these rules and why do we still have them? They feel so 1700s.
I think tradition.
I remember the first time I had to go to a more upscale restaurant, and I was in college at the time, and I had no idea what to do with the silverware. And so I was completely embarrassed, so I went back to school, and I had interlibrary loan and got articles on dining etiquette. So I knew what to do. So I understand the point you're making, Tom. I think a lot of people are in those situations.
There's actually a term in British English for, like, people that had misgivings or didn't understand why certain rules were of the way it was. It's called NOCD. Not of our class, dear.
Well, you want to know why lawyers use Latin words all the time in their conversations and their lingo?
To make everybody else feel inferior?
That's right. It's our jargon so that we can put on an air. Same thing. That's what this is all about.
I'm just going to have everybody call me Esquire.
Yep. It's to make everybody else feel inferior. And that's what they were doing.
Other best scenes.
I agree with Dana as far as the consulate scene. I think one of the funniest things is when she goes over and touches the statue and breaks off the finger. And then in a later scene during the ball, the couple is standing there and the finger is sticking sticking out of the statue's mouth, and they comment about the string cheese. So
that's the most innocent interpretation of that moment.
There are so many funny things.
In the second movie, they recall that in the second movie, and they have a moment of, well, I hope they have string cheese.
But I agree with Dana as far as it just shows, from the beginning who she was, and then she ends up in that same place at the very end of the movie, a totally changed person. So it's pivotal.
Mine is definitely the press conference at the end. I mean, it's what the movie's all about, and she shows up, she's still a mess, she doesn't know what she's doing, she is terrified to make a speech, but she's working against all of that, and still has finally come to an understanding of who she is and what she wants. And she's accepted that.
Favorite scene of mine, I have standing up to Lana. Who doesn't like showing up the bully?
True enough. That's not mine, however. Mine is when she's in the limo, the very first time that she and Joe are really alone, or not alone, and he says, well, you can call me Joe. And she calls him Joey. And he said, no, Joe. And that just kind of sets the tone for their relationship. And I just love that little scene. It's somehow heartwarming.
I didn't realize putting on pantyhose was so dangerous. And what did I say when he made that line?
I've done that.
Yes, I've done that. So, yes. I can tell the story about my wearing pantyhose someday. I'll just leave that as a teaser.
You can find that out on Sidebar.
Yeah, it's my years as an actor.
Anyone else?
My favorite scene would be the trolley scene. I think that's absolutely ridiculous. It's both fun, dignified, it's got a little bit of humor in it, and it adds just a little bit of light to the relationship between Anne Hathaway and Julie Andrews' characters.
For me, it is standing up to Lana. Or is it Lana?
It says Lana throughout the film.
Well, I think it should be Lana.
Fontana.
Fontana? I don't remember what the other girl's name was right now.
I don't know, but Joe at some point in the movie goes, Anna, Falana, Banana, Bandana, Montana, or something like that.
They missed your joke, Dad, but that's okay.
Yes.
Most indelible moment of the film for me is them trying the sorbet at the formal dinner party. The because I remember that from the commercials when this movie was, or like the trailers that were shown ahead of it to convince you to go for the movie. And for whatever reason, that was in the trailers.
I had the press conference simply because it's really the climactic moment of the film.
I think you can't have most indelible moment without mentioning, shut up!
Yes, that was good too.
That looks like a good spot for our second break. We'll be right back. Before we jump back into the episode, and before we get to the Stanley Rubric in a minute, if you're ever curious about our Master Greatest Movies of All Time list that has every graded movie we've ever discussed on the show, there's a link in the episode description of every episode of this show, or you can go to RonnieDuncanStudios.com and find it as the top entry on the Greatest Movie of All Time podcast show page. That has the grades we've done so far for all 289 movies we've graded, and we continue to add more each week. Make sure to check that out as we go and follow along. Dad, do we have anyone to remember this week?
Yes. Kaylee Hoddle, 18, American actress, Godzilla vs. Kong, Godzilla vs. Kong, The New Empire. Brenda Fricker, 81, Irish actress, My Left Foot, Home Alone 2, Lost in New York, A Time to Kill, Oscar winner in 1990.
For the aforementioned My Left Foot.
Yes. Kaylee Hoddle very tragically killed in a car accident.
And for what it's worth, most people know Brenda Fricker primarily as the bird lady from Home Alone 2.
Yes.
And so we remember these here fondly for their contributions with a moment of silence in their honor. Thank you. Let's go to best lines. I will start off with Edward Rinaldi. Courage is not the absence of fear, but rather the judgment that something is more important than fear. The brave may not live forever, but the cautious do not live at all.
Joe, I've never put on pantyhose before, but it sounds dangerous.
Mia, hey Joe, can we park a block away from school? I really don't want to cause a riot with this hearse. Joe, this is a non-riot hearse, and if it were a hearse, there would be silence in the back seat.
Joe, nobody can make you feel inferior without your consent.
Mia, I can't be a princess. I'm still waiting for normal body parts to arrive.
Gym teacher Harbala, will the Feng Shui Club please stop rearranging the tables on the lawn? That one made me actually openly laugh.
See,
Joe, this is between a waltz and a tango. Mia, it's a wango?
You skipped Mom, but okay.
That's okay. She couldn't hear. Paulo removes Mia's glasses. Do you wear contact lenses? Oh, I have them, but I don't really like to wear them that much. Paulo, he breaks her glasses in half. Now you do. Mia, shocked. You broke my glasses. Paulo, you broke my brush.
Paulo, I love your eyebrows. We'll call them Frida and Kahlo. If Brooke Shields marries Groucho Marx, their child would have your eyebrows.
Yeah.
Great job by Larry Miller. I'm out.
Helen Thermopolis, this is getting us nowhere. Talk to me. Mia, I can't talk to you right now. I'm late for a meeting with my guidance counselor. And Queen Clarisse Renaldi, I'm late for a meeting with Spain and Portugal.
Lily, just stop it, okay? Just because your hair sucks, get off mine.
Mia, and this is my last one. You know, most kids hope for a car for their 16th birthday, not a country.
Yeah.
Do you have another one, Chris?
I did.
She's looking.
I did. I had a bunch of them here, but Lily, the student body may be morally bankrupt, but that doesn't mean they're blind.
Mia, okay, I look like an asparagus. Helen, but a very, very cute asparagus.
Helen, where are you going? Mia, I'm going to straighten up the royal bedchamber.
Mia, I don't want to rule my own country. I just want to pass 10th grade.
So, I'm out.
I do have one more. Someone sat on me again.
That takes us to the Stanley Rubric. Legacy is up first. This is a measure of the legacy approximately 5 years after the film came out to today. So roughly 2006 to today. What is the legacy of this film as shared between two equal yet separate groups, the industry and the audience? 5 and 5 points apiece for a total of 10. Dad, would you like to go first or second?
I'll go second.
Given that this is the debut and I would basically say the starting point for Anne Hathaway's career, which obviously she's an Academy Award winner. She's having a fairly big summer right now with The Odyssey and the sequel to The Devil Wears Prada. I don't think it can be understated to a degree that she is made because of this movie, or at least we have her career as a result of this franchise, which is why she's at least willing or was entertaining the possibility, although we're still in pre-production of the third film.
It's in pre-production because she's pregnant.
I see. I think I did see part of that during the Odyssey promotionals and whatnot. So
she's referring to it as her buzzer beater baby.
Okay.
I saw that too.
I'm going to leave that there and not touch it at all. That being said, you could also say that there was a career resurgence for Julie Andrews, who, at least as far as popular culture, hadn't been as visible through the 90s as she was even in like the 70s and 80s. And so there's this new generation of people that came around to appreciate her again. I think at some point, a lot of young women eventually see The Sound of Music, but as it relates to her involvement in modern cinema, Hollywood, etc., it kind of jumps off from this point, and everything that follows for her seemingly is because of enough people saw these movies and her association with them, and so they thought of her in a new category. I don't think she would be doing the voiceover for Bridgerton had it not been that she was Queen Renaldi in these films. That being said, I can't say that anybody else got a significant bump as far as the industry, got no awards attention. It was critically panned, more or less. And I do reserve some of that criticism more for the impact and significance category, but I'll at least mention it or start it out here. So I have a 3.5 on the industry, even though we have a potentially planned third movie 20-some years later expected to come out. But on the audience side of things, and forgive me, I did not see how many hands exactly went up because the video cut out before we asked that question in the staff meeting. But based on the audio response, I have to assume probably 70 to 80% of the people in our office had seen this movie. Is that accurate?
About 65, 70%, yeah.
There were a lot of hands. If Mike Schaefer has seen this movie...
He had a daughter.
Well, still. I mean, the people that haven't seen a ton of movies knew instantly that this was something that they had seen. I will say this is a 4.5 because I didn't realize how fondly people still loved this franchise, seemingly, despite its lack of critical acclaim. So I'm going to go with an 8 here.
Industry. Well, part of the reason why Julie Andrews did not do a lot in the 90s was because she lost her husband, Blake Edwards. And she admittedly talks about this being a funk. This kind of was the first time she agreed to do a film in a while because of that. And it kind of snapped her out of it. So I'm going to give it, for the industry, a 4. For the public, yes, but it has to be a very limited set. It has to be, and so I'm not going to quite go to your 4.5. I'm going to go to a 4 because it either has to be a young girl or it has to be the parent of a young girl who really got into this film, because there were a lot of people who were not aware of the film.
To quantify or qualify your qualifier, I also want to say a young girl or a parent of a young girl that was growing up at this exact time.
Correct.
My grandfather was the father of a young girl, but mom was not growing up during this period, and thus he probably has no attachment to the Princess Diaries.
Correct. So I'm at an 8 overall.
I have a hard time as far as industry goes putting it as low as a 4.5 for me, in part because if you talk to people about Julie Andrews at all, just as a general litmus to the people who aren't movie buffs that I speak to about film sometimes, this is the movie that they know Julie Andrews from. Just think of all of the things that she's done in her life, and the two things that everyone knows her from are this movie and Bridgerton. And they don't even realize that she is the voice of Bridgerton unless you actually say, oh yeah, that's Julie Andrews. They recognize the voice, they don't recognize the face, because you don't see her face.
They don't know Mary Poppins?
She wasn't in Mary. Well, yeah, she was too.
What, did you?
Duh.
Okay, all right. We're gonna let that pitch go by.
Thank you.
I'm sorry. The thing people know her most for is The Sound of Music, and then
No,
maybe
not
we can
my
have a
generation.
conversation.
Yeah, I was going to say
That's just the thing. I literally sat in an office today discussing this movie with my coworkers, and my coworkers are, as much as you can call it, the average American at this point. Like, half of them
That's
don't
a
have
moving
degrees,
target.
the other half do. Some people, we just have a really general audience, and we have people who don't know who this is. People who've never even heard of The Sound of Music are in this group. And that's what I'm having a hard time telling you, is you do not seem to understand that, because we've seen Singing in the Rain.
That's not really the point. You started this off, though, by talking about how it was somehow applied to the industry, and really all you've talked about is the general
if she's
audience.
known for that.
But that's not industry. The industry has to do with industry trends and how her career expanded, or how. So if you want to talk about the sequel, that would apply to that particular point. I'm trying to guide you here. Stop trying to resist. I'm telling you all the points you're making are fine, but they're more about the audience than they are about the industry.
Okay.
So what was your audience score? Yeah.
Even just talking about then Anne Hathaway's overall career, this is what launched her, and she became a star because of the girls who knew her. As we grew up, her career grew because we knew her, loved her, and wanted to see her in things. So if she was the name on the film, we were going. She was revered amongst girls my age.
What is your
score?
numbers here, Sarah?
Until that stupid Witches film, anyway. So I'm giving it a 4.5 for industry, and I will say a 4.5 for audience as well. Because I just know a ton of people who... This is still advertised on Disney Plus, depending on what you're watching. This is something that is still shared and loved by women of my generation. And as so many of us are starting to become mothers, it is one that is actually still occasionally hitting charts on most watched.
And your overall score is
9.
So for Legacy, the industry, I have a 4. It was the biggest coming of age movie of that generation. It had a sequel, so it was well loved enough that there was that they thought that they could make money on a second one. And I think all the same people who saw the first one saw the second one. I think those two things in combination, because almost everybody has seen those. I can't say that everybody has seen the one you guys did last week. I happened to watch part of that. It was kind of weird. But I had a 4 for that, and then 4 for the audience score, because it is well loved, and people who saw it aren't opposed to seeing it again if it happens to be somewhere that they are, or if they have a daughter now who's going through that same awkward age, would be willing to show it to somebody. So I have an 8.
So that's an 8.25 average between the four of us. Now, let's move to impact and significance. This is a measure of the impact and significance in the initial 5 years of the film's release, so 2001 to 2006. What is the impact and significance among the same two groups that we measured a second ago, the industry and the audience, 5 and 5 points apiece for a total of 10. Since I led off the last category, Dad, would you like to start here?
Yes. I'm going to start with the public, because I think that is a 4, because it really drew well. And the minute it was released on video or on streaming, well, I guess we didn't have streaming back then. But the minute it was released on video, it became even a bigger hit. So I'm at a 4 for the public. The one that I'm struggling with determining is the industry. I want to say, I mean, it was so deadpanned by so many of the critics. And the impact, you know, I guess, and I'm trying to remember how long after this was Brokeback Mountain. Because I don't think
4 years? No.
Long?
Yeah, 4 years.
Yeah, okay. So then I'm going to have to go with the 4. Because Anne Hathaway sought that part out to get away from the child or the juvenile background that she came from. And I think that the success of these films gave her the gravitas to get that part. So I'm going to have to go with the 4. So I'm at an 8.
I am going to go with a 6.5. I am at a 3 for the industry. I don't think I can go any higher. I think that's actually being somewhat generous in this particular case. It was critically deadpanned. Yes, Anne Hathaway's career takes off as a result of that, which is the only reason I'm giving it up here. But if we're consistent across all the movies that we grade, you have to give the lack of awards attention, the critical deadpanning, all into account here, and everything screams that this movie was not appreciated by the industry, with the exception that they responded to a slightly higher audience score with it, with the sequel. With the exception of that, which is why I'm going to give it just above the median point and go with a 3, I don't think that there's a great case otherwise for this movie if we're judging it in the same way that we do every other film that we do every week. As far as an audience, though, this is the 27th finishing film of that particular year. I think we're over-equating it because of the anecdotal nature of the people that we know that appreciate and have seen this film. Yes, there are a lot of people that we know of that have seen and appreciated the film. That doesn't mean it was one of the biggest cultural movies of the moment in that particular year. We said a couple of weeks ago that Legally Blonde had a cultural impact, but that it was bigger after the fact than it was necessarily in the moment. Even though that seemed to be a culturally popular movie, that finished, I think, 38th in 2001. I think we're conflating two very different things, whereas in 2001, the Lord of the Rings movies being at or near the top of the box office is a different type of cultural seepage than the movie that finishes 27th and 30-something, which, don't get me wrong, they have their cultural moments, but it's within a much narrower group of people. And as Dad mentioned in the last category, it's a subsection of people that had to have the right context. They were parents of children growing up in this era, most likely women, or they were young girls growing up in this exact era. And so outside of those groups where, yes, we do have a cadre or a subsection of the population that would be in that category in our office, I just can't go quite above that. So I'm at a 3.5 for the audience, and I have a 6.5 here.
I guess that leaves me. So as far as the impact and significance, I also have a 3. Albeit it launched Anne Hathaway's career, which we've kind of talked about ad nauseum, but it did, and she later got, Devil Wears Prada and all these other films. So for her, it was incredibly impactful, but she has been in Hollywood now for 25 years and done amazing things. We were just talking during the break about the film The Odyssey that came out and how she was in there. And I did do a little research, and apparently this film also revived Disney's live action success, because apparently in the late 90s they had some real mixed results. With this becoming such a hit, they found that they still had a strong audience for those kinds of things. So it kind of relaunched into they did the, not Sleeping Beauty, what did they do? Snow White, but anyway, so they did some other big films that they felt with all the Disney princesses and all their live action films. So I know that, and it also modernized the fairy tale of the little girls becoming princesses. And so I gave it a 3. As far as the audience is concerned, I agree with Tom with everything that he said. I don't think I need to repeat any. I had a 4, so I had a total of 7.
For impact and significance, I had a 7. I really don't remember when I was 5. I don't know what the impact would have been in the industry far beyond what you guys have said. As far as significance, I have a hard time knocking it down any. In fact, I would build it up by the fact that a lot of the women that I know who are having kids, are starting to have kids, still revisit this movie. This is something that they've introduced their daughters and their children to as well, because it is a fun movie that they both can enjoy, and it's a little bit of a nostalgia, and right now in the era that we're in, we're having a bit of a nostalgia recurrence.
So that's a 7.13 average between the 4 of us. Let's move to novelty. Novelty is a measure of anything original about the film, as well as the execution in the film itself. Any element of the film is fair game. 5 and 5 points apiece for a total of 10. I guess I'll start here. I don't find this movie to be all that original. It's kind of wish fulfillment. It's fairy tale-esque. I'm not even going to knock it for necessarily being on a book, based on a book. But I just don't find that this is all that unusual than some other Hollywood tropes or stories that we've been telling, other than it shifts a little bit more to being female-centric. I think movies like, Richie Rich was kind of in this capacity. Rookie of the Year, where the kid becomes like this all-star baseball player, is kind of in the same vein, where a kid gets thrust into this unknown situation where it's a fantasy per se. But in this case, it's just aimed more towards an audience of women. So I'm going to give it a 1.5 there. And as far as the execution, I had my issues with the script. I have my issues with the tone changes. I do think that for at least the jokes and some of the humor, it holds up pretty well for a 25-year-old film. So I'll give it some level of credit for that. I don't think that stylistically it's anything significant. I mean, the cinematography here it's fine. Most of the peripheral characters are fine. And you have some very good lead acting performances, particularly by the 3 that we nominated for basically everything in Andrews, Elizondo, and Hathaway. So with that all being said, I'm going to give a 3 on the execution. I have a 4.5.
Originality. I'm at a 2. It's Roman Holiday in reverse. Not to mention Prince and the Pauper. I could go on, all right? So it's a 2 for originality. I know that I gave high marks and found Gary Marshall extremely... This is not his best film. Gary Marshall had done some really good films. But Gary Marshall carried this film. I don't think from a quality... Yes, it's endearing and fun and people... It's not a real great film for execution. So best I can do is a 2.5, so I'm at a 4.5 overall.
I did not split my score, but I have a 3. I think that while entertaining, and it was meant for entertainment and to be cute, and there was a little bit of an underlying social theme with the bullying and, some of all of that kind of thing, it's really a rags to riches and a coming of age story, which has been a common theme in books and in movies throughout time. And so as far as novelty, I didn't find it that great. I mean, it's a wonderful film, don't get me wrong, but novel it is not.
I mean, you could even argue that it has elements of, which is the Dickens novel where he inherits great wealth? Is it Great Expectations? Or is it David Copperfield?
Not sure.
Well, there's elements of that. You could also say it's at least one half of Prince and the Pauper, which is the Twain book, that has elements of that in here as well. So it's not unfamiliar, which is why I think it ended up being as popular as it was, is it repackaged certain Hollywood tropes.
Gave it a 4. It has classic, more modern elements to it. It's not a new idea. We're still mining old tropes, old ideas, but it does have a slightly newer take on it.
I did not think Dad and I would be the highest in this category on this movie. But that's a 4 average between the 4 of us. Let's move to Classicness. This is a measure of how well the film has aged over time. So over the last 25 years, how well has this movie aged or not? Now, with that, we start at a baseline of a 6 instead of the normal midpoint of the 5, just because we felt at one time that it was going to be easier to take points off for things aging poorly, because let's face it, most things do not age well over time. There are so many different examples that we could point to. But because this category, therefore, lives in the nuance, we turn to our senior graying nuance correspondent, Dana.
I'm not graying, I'm white. So
you are very white, yes.
So starting at the 6, okay, I'll give it a point up for the themes of teenage girls and focus on those on that area and that element of society. I will give it a half a point up because the humor holds up, although it's basically 60s and 70s sitcom humor, which I grew up with that, so yes, it holds up. How is it that in 2001, with Walt Disney, or the Disney Company, we only have one real black individual? We have Margaret Cho is the only...
No.
Who
Sandra
else?
Oh.
Oh, yeah, that's
not
right.
Margaret Cho.
Okay. Yes, Sandra Oh. All right, is the Asian. We have 2 people of color in this entire film. I understand
I think that the gym teacher...
It's a prep school in San Francisco and then a Western European royalty country. How many different diversity people did you expect in this movie?
Well, at least they would have tried to put somebody in. So I the best I can do is 7.
Okay.
I mean, you could maybe claim that her gym teacher is like Latina, but
I that doesn't even really bother me because of the targeting of women in the audience for this movie and the amount of women that are at the forefront of the movie. With Joe being primarily the only real male influence. I mean, yes, there's Josh and there's the other, her brother, I can't remember. Is it Michael?
Michael.
Yeah. Those are kind of like bystander characters.
But you're also missing her teacher that her mom hooks up with.
Oh, yeah.
Who's barely in it. So unless you want to, therefore, we're going to also put in the prime minister who does the sorbet with her. I just don't see like there's a ton of male influence in the film either. It's just a lot of white women. But if you really wanted a racial diversity, you have two different people named Moskowitz. At least you got the Jewish vote. That being said, I give this a +1 for timelessness and universality. I have no points down, and I give it a half point for holding up well on some of the humor and the cuteness and the fun. So I'm going to go with a 7.5.
I had a straight 8. I think it's classic in the fact that there really isn't any theme that they have in this movie that has gone out of vogue. We still have coming of age. We still have girls that are feeling awkward. We still have bullying going on in schools and cliques. And these are just all normal, everyday situations that are brought back again and again. And it's just a classic film that I think even another 25 years from now could still be shown to a similar group of middle school girls, and they would still find it relevant.
I'm sorry to hear that.
The one exception I will take is a young man in high school starting his own band. That does not happen. Now they're mixing their own disc tracks and...
Okay.
I'm not going to wait a minute.
Wasn't there some group about frogs?
Yes. I was going to start my own band in the 90s called the Radioactive Nuclear Frogs.
That's right.
Except somebody had to be able to play a musical instrument.
Either way, we have 3 scores on the board. Sarah, you're still up.
I actually also had an 8. This is a film that is incredibly classic. There's nothing really that, as Mom said, has gone out of fashion. In fact, I think a lot of times some of these topics have become more necessary to discuss now than they were at the time. And I think this has aged really, really well.
Well, the only pushback I would have is you were 5 years old. How many of these issues did you know whether or not they were being discussed at the time? That's my only comment there.
She had an older sister.
Again, this is a movie that I watched so many times. So many times over that a very short few years. And I do remember having friends and always feeling like an outsider and feeling like it is a very awkward time for girls trying to figure out who they're going to be accepted by and trying to figure out where they belong. It's
totally
really
understandable.
normal.
Totally understandable, Sarah. My only issue is you said that they were now more discussed than they were at the time, and you have nothing to compare it to because you were 5 years old and you were just starting kindergarten, and I just don't know what your frame of reference is there. If you're going to take Mom's point, Allison was 8, and this was her stand-up comedy era when she used to talk about the boy and the girl going into the garage.
She's not here to defend herself. Let's not talk about her.
No, I was thinking the same thing.
Moving on.
Okay, so that's a 7.63 average between the 4 of us. God, I hate these weird decimals. Rewatchability is last up. This is a measure of insert your own subjective test here, and we will start with our guess.
A 5. This movie is definitely rewatchable. Would I watch it every week? Would I watch it once a year? I don't know, but I definitely, have rewatched it a couple of times in my lifetime. So 5.
Are you sure?
I'm positive.
Well, seeming that I've watched this twice in the last month, once in preparation for this, and once actually with my, as we call it, craft group, where we literally just all sit around watching a movie while we knit or sew or whatever. I would say this is highly rewatchable, and I have been the litmus test on that, because I have rewatched this a ton of times in my life, including with my sister in the last 2 years. So, I'm going to give it a 9, because it's still a fun watch. If I see it on, I'm going to keep it on.
So, Dad, this now being your first time seeing the film in full, what is the likelihood that you will ever rewatch this?
If the ladies would want to watch it, I'll watch it. If for anything else, just because I love Hector Elizondo. For no other reason. He is so cool. Anyway, so it's either a 4.5 or a 5 for me. I'm going to give it the half point up and go with a 5 simply for Hector. By the way, he's 89. He's still apparently doing stuff because he's did apparently a voice or a cartoon voice last year. So he's still active. Good for him.
I'm going to say that I'm at a 6 here. I know we have 2 5s and a 9 on the board, but the point to be made is not that it's first-time watchers, but rather re-watchers. So the people that have already seen this movie, how likely are they to rewatch it? I think that's just slightly higher. It's not going to be the kind of go-to film that's like in your favorite repertoire, but I think people have a fond remembrance of it. And mothers growing up and then introducing their daughters to it, I think there is some element of that. So I'm going to move it up just slightly above the median and say a 6. And so that's a 6.25 average between the four of us. For audience score on this one, we had a 6.4 rating on IMDb, as we've now had to adopt that in lieu of Google getting rid of their user scores. And we had a 68% for Rotten Tomato users, giving us a 6.6. So to repeat the categories, we had an 8.25 for legacy, a 7.13 for impact and significance, a 4 for novelty, a 7.63 for classicness, a 6.25 for rewatchability, and a 6.6 for audience score, giving us a final total of 39.86, and currently placing it 1/100th of a point above the natural at number 244, which is another kind of rags to riches fantasy wish fulfillment movie. But that being said, you can write us at greatestalltimemoviepodcast@gmail.com. You can find us on any of our socials at GMotePodcast, or you can write the website RyanDuncanStudios.com/GMotePodcast for any commentary that you have on this, or how I edited this show, or anything else that's gone on tonight. Maybe some of the inside baseball family jokes, like how did that joke that Allison started with the boy and the girl in the garage finish? I'll be happy to answer that one. It is more lame than you think it is.
Oh, yeah.
But let's turn to remaining questions. I have a couple here. Why the hell is this movie in San Francisco? I can understand if she's living in San Francisco for a little bit, but why would then the entire rest of the movie happen there? And why is the Genovian government, like the prime minister and all these representatives and random people, coming to San Francisco where there's a consulate, not even the embassy, the consulate, to have these like weird dinner parties and the formal ball? Wouldn't that theoretically have been in Genovia?
Not necessarily. She was coming to convince her granddaughter that she should come back with her to take her rightful place. And so she was going to be introducing her to all of these people and using that to possibly persuade. On top of which, during their Independence Day, the Queen was in San Francisco to help her granddaughter celebrate her 16th birthday, help her get, acclimated and train her. And so they came to where the Queen was because they were celebrating in their Independence Day with the Queen. So I don't think it's that far-fetched.
Okay. It flies against every form of international politics that I'm aware of, but that's fine. I guess I don't know. My second one. Why is Mia still friends with Lily?
Why not? Stuff happens.
She is the worst best friend.
I don't know about that. And why did she need to apologize? Because she promised Lily she'd be on her show on Saturday night, and she was upstaged by Josh. So, yes, she had to apologize to her and eat her words. You don't lose your friends just because you're changing positions.
Lily is...
Also, you don't understand how women work. Sometimes you just
that's for damn certain.
Back.
I don't want to know. I really don't.
Sometimes you just need someone at your back who fully understands you, knows your history. But that's the thing.
She isn't
and supports you no matter what. And
she wasn't supportive. That's my point.
Again. That's the thing. Is sometimes you keep the people that know you best. And they adapt eventually.
So you keep bad friends because they're your oldest? I don't know.
She actually goes to Genovia in the second movie and is supportive. It's not that she's not. She doesn't understand.
We're only dealing with this movie specifically. When she does her makeover, she's critical of her. When she has this whole fame thing, she thinks she's selling out, even though she's going through this huge monumental change. Then, the minute that the whole thing is revealed, she's using her for her own designs. This is like the definition of a truly bad friend. Like, she at no point is supportive.
Jealous. She was jealous.
Yes, she does.
Yes, and that's not an excuse.
And you're never jealous of a friend of yours who has something?
Tom, don't even try.
She apologizes and says she needs an attitude adjustment. She's not kidding in that, and that's something I don't think you fully understand the scope of. She realizes that she hasn't been a good friend, and she's trying to apologize for that.
Yes, Mia apologizes. Lily apologizes to Mia too.
When men understand women, they have to die. That's God's ultimate
It's not that they have to die. Die is the quickest way to remove them from the earth.
Well, that's what a sudden revelation is a heart attack. Guys die. The only way they survive that is if the heart attack knocks what their revelation was out of their head. Then they can survive. Otherwise, they have to die because it is a mystery that has been established by God from the very beginning. Because all of us all sit around looking at each other going, do you have any idea? No, I don't have any idea. Do you have any clue? No, I don't. All I know is they have all the power and we have no idea what's going on.
No more true than in the Garden of Eden and immediately, hey, Adam, this doesn't taste right. You should try this.
Okay, so I do have another remaining question that it never occurred to me until I watched the movie again this time, and I don't know what was different about it this time, but the grandmother gives her this special locket, and the locket is the key for this book that her dad was leaving her. First of all, how did the dad get a book that the locket fit in, number one? And number two, did the dad predict his own death? Because he wrote the letter for his daughter before he died, and then she's supposed to have it for her 16th birthday. Was he preparing a year in advance for her 16th birthday and knew he was going to die, so he wrote this letter? It just seems kind of weird that he comes back in this book and the locket with the key, and why would he have, I don't know.
I don't know. This is the Duncan family. Maybe he was a psychic.
There is, from what I have heard, there is actually a cut scene in which, yes, he does predict his own death because it is a, like, terminal illness.
Ah, okay.
I have one.
In the books, he's alive.
Yes. They cut him out in the movie so they could give more lines to Julie Andrews. I have one question. Willie Brown, the mayor of San Francisco, is in this film with a line, which means he got residuals. Did anybody investigate whether or not there's a quid pro quo that he got to be in the film in order to fast track a bunch of permits to film in San Francisco?
Only you would think
Of course
that.
you'd ask that.
Did anyone investigate Willie Brown for grift?
Yes, that was common. That's why he didn't win governor.
Okay.
Wow.
Anyway, any other remaining questions?
I had one, but I forgot it because of the whole thing with Willie Brown's grift.
Okay.
All right.
Hearing none, since neither of our guests has a lot to promote of their own materials other than what they've talked about prior, I'll just remind everyone quickly of the next episodes they will be on. Mom will be back next week for Alice in Wonderland with our other most frequent guest, Kieran B., as they finally meet, and only one shall come out victorious.
Oh, geez, it'll be him.
Cage match.
He's more verbose.
And Sarah will be back with some Blue Steel in September. But she's not an Ambi Turner, so just be careful. Moving on. Final thoughts for the week. 3 of us out of the 4 here have seen The Odyssey and saw it together in IMAX.
Yes, and one of us has their degree in classics.
Yes, but I haven't seen it. Who's had the time? I spent last weekend trying to dig out my sister's garden.
Instead of digging up bones.
I've done that too.
So thoughts?
I personally think it's one of the most perfect films I've ever seen. The acting, the writing, there were slow moments, but it's the Odyssey. It's not like it's, the greatest thing. It is an epic. I rank it with Gone with the Wind, Lawrence of Arabia, Ben-Hur. Ultimately it will come down that I still prefer Oppenheimer, but Chris Nolan will be remembered for this as one of the great epic films of all time.
I think that this is mid-tier Nolan. It doesn't resonate emotionally in the same way that certain other films do in his oeuvre, and I think this will be passed over as something in the vein of Dunkirk, which I personally put up much higher than the average person, but that writes it into the middle tier of what he's doing. It is a fantastically well-made movie. It is a fantastically well-acted movie. There's really nothing technically wrong with any of it. It's just whether the story connects with you at all. And I think until about the last hour, I was really struggling to find that endpoint. To be fair, it took me a while and basically the third viewing of Oppenheimer before I really found what I was looking for in that film. But there are films that I think I connect with much more readily or easily. The Dark Knight, Inception, those are 2 of my favorite all-time films. Those have certain resonance with me that I immediately got and fostered. I think for some people, Interstellar is very much like that. For some people, it's Memento. And I just don't know how many people are going to necessarily take that away from this film.
Did you ever read the book?
We discussed this over the weekend. No, I have never seen her done anything with the Odyssey before seeing the movie over the weekend. I know nothing. I went in completely clean.
I think ultimately this is going to increase over time because I think this film, more than anything else, is a film about pacifism and the failure or the just sheer folly of war and the outcome of war. And I think at a time when we're looking at technology and how you can put up for a couple $1,000 a drone that can destroy what, takes billions of dollars to create, we've kind of reached to that point where our technology has exceeded our ability to create war.
Mom, any quick thoughts?
About the movie? I think you're right. I think I'm going to have to probably watch it again in order to gain the feeling. I think there was a lot going on in the film. It's been a long time since I read the book, so trying to remember the story at the same time I was trying to watch the film. I'm not sure how accurate it is with the story because it's been a long time since I read it. But I agree I thought the acting was superb. I thought the cinematography, the way it was filmed, was believable. Even though, it's a mythological thing. And I thought that they did a really good job with the costumes as well as the makeup for the Cyclops and trying to put all that together. It was terrific. So I think it's definitely worth a watch.
You need to humanize the Cyclops. He has a name.
Bill
It's
Irwin.
Polyphemus.
No, one comment I will make.
Okay.
Back in the 50s, even to the 60s, Lawrence of Arabia, they had an actual break in the film. So you didn't have to sit there and hold your bladder for 3 hours.
Yeah, it was a long time. I had to get up and... So yeah, make sure you don't have anything to drink for hours beforehand.
Why would you not put in a break in the film so that people can go and use the bathroom, get something to drink or eat, whatever?
Fun fact, Southern Europe does actually force those in. They just cut at a really bad moment sometimes, and they will force in a break. And it's not for bathroom breaks. It's so that people can go and smoke.
I'll just say, 3 of us have now given our review of the film. The 4th one, who has yet to see it, I can already tell you what their review is going to be. This was historically inaccurate, this was historically inaccurate, and thus it took me completely out of the film.
No, I don't think so. She knows that's all fantasy.
Except that was her review of Gladiator.
Okay, but Gladiator's not necessarily like a fantasy
We were watching
movie.
it together
This is
during the film. It wasn't my actual review of the film. I was just noticing crap, and there was a certain times where, something was so obviously and blatantly inaccurate where it's just like, this could have been so easy to fix kind of shit.
You have to learn how to adjust, because when I watched Pressure, I was noticing several problems with this story as far as historical accuracy of D-Day, but whatever.
It's like me watching any legal drama anymore.
Yeah.
Hey, you got that from your dad before you even started law school.
Okay. Regardless, that looks like a good place to stop for this week. Thank you for listening. I do wish we could chat longer, but I'm having an old friend for dinner. Next week, for our 323rd episode, we discuss Alice in Wonderland from 1951, celebrating its 65th anniversary. Directed by Clyde Geronimi, Wilfred Jackson, and Hamilton Lusky. Written by 13 different credited writers. Music by Oliver Wallace. Edited by Lloyd L. Richardson. You won't want to miss that one, so watch ahead of the show by searching the Real Good app to find where it's streaming for you. That's ReelGood. Please like, follow, rate, and review, or whatever on whichever platform you have so that more can join in on our fun. You can also email the show at RonnieDuncanStudios.com or at GreatestAllTimeMoviePodcast@gmail.com, or find us on YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, Letterboxd, Blue Sky, Threads, or TikTok at the handle @GMOPodcast. Greatest Movie of All Time is a production of Ronnie Duncan Studios. Our show is mixed, edited, and written by Thomas Duncan. Our music is thanks to Purple Planet Music. Our distributor is Captivate FM. Our technical provider is Riverside FM.